This is R2D Tech, and this week I'm going to be talking about the Chromecast with Google TV, which is quite possibly the most polished product that Google have ever made, so stay tuned. First up, what is it? So it's basically a mini box about this big which plugs into your TV via HDMI, so you will need to have an HDMI port to be able to use this. It's very common on most TVs these days. And what it does is it gives you access to the Google TV operating system, which is absolutely amazing, and I'll get onto that slightly later in the video. But in short terms, you get access to pretty much all the apps, bar a few, that you'd possibly want on a TV, like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, even Apple TV, ITV, YouTube, Spotify. I could go on and on. And along with this, you get a really nice remote control, which is very small, comes in a few colors depending on which one you choose. It's a really nice matte finish, and I think you'll be very pleased with it. I was very impressed with how nice it looks and how intuitive it is to use as well, but we'll get onto that specifically later in the video. And you can stream 4K video with the Google TV Chromecast with Google TV. So that's a plus side over some of the other products out there. Now, the reason I even came across this product in the first place is because I needed something to plug into my Samsung Smart TV, because it's quite old now and a lot of apps like Amazon Prime and Netflix don't work anymore just because Samsung aren't updating them frequently enough for it to be compatible. So I thought I'd try this out, and I'm actually really pleased that I did. The other thing is that we have a sound system, and we basically have like 3 different remotes or even 4 different remotes to control the sound on the TV, the sound on the sound system, the TV itself, the Virgin box, the smart features on the TV. So it was basically just like absolute chaos because we had like a million different remotes just to control one television. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll try using something like this and tuning or like connecting the remote to work with everything, so I could try and do everything from one remote. So in my particular circumstance, this was really useful because it has infrared, so I managed to set up the volume on my sound system and TV to work with the volume buttons on the remote using that infrared. Also, it can turn the TV on and off, which is really handy, so you don't need to use a separate TV remote to do that. It can even switch sources on your TV, and it will automatically find the HDMI port that you've plugged this box into, which is really handy. And one of the last additional features, which I wasn't really going to mention, but now that I think of it, it's really good with the Google TV, is that it seems to have a really good Wi-Fi connection compared to some of the other products I have. So the TV itself didn't have a good Wi-Fi connection at all, so there'd be a lot of buffering when the apps like Netflix used to work. I used to use my PlayStation after the TV stopped working to watch stuff, and the Wi-Fi connection on that was better, but still not quite as good as what I've experienced with this product. So I'm really happy with that as well. Moving on, let's talk about the software experience a bit. And I promise this isn't an advert, I'm not paid by Google or anything like that, but I've just been so impressed by the software experience. And another feature on this, which is voice control using the remote control, which is actually Google Assistant. It's been so great, so rapid compared to some of the other products out there, especially compared to the Amazon Fire Stick actually. And the software I would describe using the word bubbly. I don't really know how else to describe it, but apart from being rapid, it also looks really nice and bubbly, really aesthetic. You can scroll through or like click through the operating system, and it will have suggestions for movies or YouTube videos that you might want to watch based on which accounts you've actually signed into, which is quite handy. It will even give you the reviews, so the Rotten Tomatoes score, for example, so you know whether a movie is worth watching or not. And one feature that I liked is that you can sign into multiple Google accounts. So say I want to watch YouTube one day, but then my dad wants to watch it another day, he can just switch to his account and will sign into his YouTube, and he can see his feed over there. Another thing which is nice if you like to leave your TV on is that it has different wallpapers and like art paintings and stuff that it can display on your TV basically as like a standby mode. Now let's talk about that voice control quickly. It's quite a minor feature, I guess. Some people might even see it as a gimmick, But the thing that really impressed me, apart from it being Google Assistant, which is without a doubt the best voice assistant out there at the moment, is that it's really rapid. So all you do is you just press and hold the assistant button on the remote, say what you want. For example, you might say open Netflix or something like that, or play Stranger Things, and it will do it pretty much instantly the moment you let go of that assistant button, which is really nice. Let's talk a bit more about that remote controller though, because it's easy to forget, but it is one of the best features of this thing apart from the software. And it's quite a small one. I describe the look as sort of a matte. I describe the look as sort of a matte, chalky sort of finish. I personally went with the white one, which I think they're calling Panda White because of the contrast between the black and white colors on it. But you can also get other colors, which I'll put on the screen now. Of course, you've got quite a few different buttons on there. You've got the volume controls, you've got that really handy infrared so you can map it to control your sound system, turn your TV on and off, things like that. You've also got the other buttons that I mentioned, like the source button or the assistant button, which is probably my favorite one on there. And of course, you have other things like the home button, back, and even Netflix and YouTube are on there for some reason, but there you go. Before I get on to the cons of this thing, I think it's important to mention that you can actually integrate this with your smart home if you're a smart home kind of guy like myself. But if you have like a Google Nest Mini, for example, and it does really have to be a Google smart home that you've got. So with the Google Nest Mini, you can get it to turn the TV on and open Netflix, for example, which is quite cool. If anything, it's a bit of a gimmick, but it impresses your friends. I've hidden my Google Nest Mini in the cabinet underneath the TV, so I just walk into the living room and say, "Hey Google, turn on the TV and play Stranger Things on Netflix," and it does that. In fact, I'll even give you a quick demo now. "Hey Google, turn on the TV and play Stranger Things on Netflix."
Got it. Turning the TV on. All right. Here's Stranger Things on Netflix on TV.
It's not something that I use very often. I usually just pick up the remote and use that instead, but it's quite a cool feature if you're really into the whole smartphone thing like myself. So on to the cons. First up, you do need to have an HDMI port to be able to plug this into your TV. Now, most TVs out there do have HDMI ports, but definitely go ahead and check that before you buy one. The other con is that not every app under the sun is on this Google TV software. Most of the ones you could think of are, but certain TV channel apps, for example, like All 4, I don't think are on there yet. They might be in the future, but go ahead and check that the ones you want are on there. I can tell you that the main ones like Netflix, Prime, Apple TV, Disney+, Spotify, ITV, YouTube are all on there. Future me stepping in quickly to add to the cons list, unfortunately. Google recently updated their services policy and decided that they would charge a bit extra for purchases. And so the unfortunate downside of this is that Amazon have now removed the ability to rent or buy movies on their app on the Google TV. So if you want to do that, you'll now have to rent it online or on your phone, and then you'll be able to watch it on your Google TV. And that's to avoid some of the extra fees that Google have added now. So that's quite a big inconvenience if you just want to be able to rent movies on Amazon Prime on your TV or buy them. So that's definitely one to consider on the cons list. Finally, let's talk about the price, which is probably going to divide the room a little bit. Let me just say that I think it's well worth the price for the software and hardware experience that you're getting. It's about £60 or about $60 if you're in the US, but I don't think it's too much, as I said, for what you're getting. Compared to some of the other products out there, I think it's just miles ahead of the competition, and the software is definitely the best one out there in my opinion. Now, there is another product by Google which is slightly cheaper, which is just the Chromecast, but I definitely wouldn't recommend that one unless you really are on a budget, just because it doesn't have the Google TV software at all. It doesn't have a remote. you basically just cast everything from your phone, and it can be quite laggy and definitely not as fast in terms of Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. So I wouldn't really recommend that one. I definitely recommend getting the full Google TV Chromecast product, but it is another option. Well, those are my thoughts on the Chromecast with Google TV, which I think is an absolutely amazing product, probably something that's gone under the radar a bit, but definitely something to consider, especially if you've got a really old TV that has an HDMI port, which isn't a smart TV, because this thing can make that TV smart, which I think is amazing. That's it for this week. Definitely let me know in the comments section what you think, and if you like the video, then please leave a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this in the future, which you probably do, then click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell below.